The 3 Monstrosities in Darktide can be a serious headache to deal with, but they don't have to be. Here is a guide on how to effectively deal with all 3 bosses in Warhammer 40k Darktide. Starting us off is Nurgle's thickest lad, the Plague Ogryn. The Plogryn is a seemingly formidable foe due to its sheer size and immense strength, but it's actually the easiest boss of the 3 to deal with due to how telegraphed its attacks are. The Plogryn has 4 different kinds of attacks. His first attack is his only combo attack. He will perform a left-to-right sweep, right-to-left sweep, and an overhead strike, all in quick succession. All 3 of these attacks can be fully blocked with no bleed-through damage, and the sweep attacks can be dodged by dodging backwards, while the overhead strike can be dodged by dodging to the side or backwards. His second attack is a simple overhead strike, which occurs when you get too close to him. This attack is unblockable. If you attempt to block it, it will instantly break your guard and deal full damage to you, which means your only form of defense against it is to dodge it, either to the side or back. His third attack is the Stomp. This attack is very similar to his overhead strike, as it also only triggers when you are too close and is also unblockable. His fourth attack is an uppercut, which is fully blockable, and his final attack is the charge, which only occurs when he locks onto a target far away from him. This attack can be blocked, but can also be dodged by timing a slide dodge slightly before he would hit you. Dodging this attack in a game isn't always reliable depending on the ping of the server, but it is a good trick to keep in mind just in case. The Plague Ogryn has 2 major weaknesses that you can exploit, the first of which has to do with all of his attack animations. Excluding his overhead strike, every single attack of the Plogryn is telegraphed with a short wind-up animation before the actual attack is released, which allows for his attacks to be read easily. If you take the time to memorize his attacks and their wind-up animations, you can know exactly what the Plogryn is about to do and therefore know how to counter it, making him incredibly predictable in combat. His other major weakness is the ability to force specific attacks. By getting directly in his face, you can force the Plogryn to loop between his Stomp, overhead strike, and uppercut attack. He will choose between these 3 attacks in no particular order, but the cooldown between each attack is the same, which means that you can reliably time your dodges in between them and force him into an endless loop of these 3 attacks, locking him into place. This is referred to in the Tide community as dodge dancing. This can also be done with Ogryn, but primarily boils down to dodging his overhead slam and dodge sliding his stomp attacks. Keep in mind that the Plogryn will sometimes break this loop with his 3 attack combo, or will aggro to another player and charge them if you don't keep attacking him while dodge dancing him. Second, we have Nurgle's cutest puppy, the Beast of Nurgle. By himself, the Beast isn't a terribly formidable foe, but when fought within a confined space or with a massive horde, it can become a serious threat. Despite that though, there are still ways to deal with it. The Beast's main gimmick is his puke. He will attempt to puke on a player and inflict the vomit status effect, slowing your movement and covering your screen with gunk. If he successfully vomits on you, he will then move towards you and eat you, carrying you around in his belly until you are saved by a teammate or he pukes you back out. Both his puke and the path he walks leaves behind a trail of gunk, which simultaneously lowers your movement speed and raises your corruption while you walk through it. The Beast also has 3 melee attacks it can perform: a tail slam, tail swipe, and ground slam attack. These attacks are all essentially the same mechanically, as they are all unblockable and will send you flying back if they hit you, and are all easily dodgeable if you dodge them backwards. The only difference is the Beast performs its tail attacks if you engage in melee from its back, while it performs the slam if you engage in melee from its front. The Beast will only perform these attacks if it has either successfully eaten someone, if multiple people are within its melee range, or if it's locked onto one target and a second or more enters melee range with it. Whenever you fight the beast, it's best to lead it to wide open spaces so you have plenty of room to maneuver around its puke attacks. This isn't always possible though, so if you find yourself in a tight corridor, you should aim to lure him to an open space as soon as possible. Thankfully, his gunk is easy to bypass, as spamming jump through it will negate most of the slowdown and corruption you would otherwise gain from it. The best way to fight the beast is through teamwork, as there are multiple weaknesses built into the boss that multiple people can exploit. For instance, staggering an enemy while the beast is eating an ally will free that ally, and if the beast is locked onto another target, you can consistently run up behind him to proc his tail attacks, which will slow him down a bit. However, if you must fight the beast solo, you can permakite the beast in a tight circle by hugging it and dodging it to the side to avoid its puke, which you can reliably predict as it rears its head back right before it vomits. The beast can only eat you if it actually pukes on you, so as long as you don't get puked on, you can stay as close to the beast as you want. This can also be done while playing Ogryn, but his larger hitbox means it's much easier to accidentally walk back into the beast's puke hitbox, so be sure to always dodge away from it. Also keep in mind that this maneuver in general is much more difficult to perform in an actual game due to ping, so if you choose to try this, remember that you'll have to be at the top of your game. And lastly is the bane of everyone's existence, the Chaos Spawn. The Chaos Spawn has 5 different kinds of attacks. 2 different multi-attack combos, one where he attacks 3 times and one where he attacks 4, a slow double overhead slam, a fast single overhead slam, a leap attack that he uses to close distance, and a tentacle swipe grab attack. Every single attack of the spawns can be fully blocked, except its grab attack, which must be dodged backwards. Allies can also be freed from the spawn's grab through any stagger. Due to the aggressive nature of the Chaos Spawn, it's difficult to lock it in place for more than a few seconds at a time. If you're running a weapon with fast attacks like the dueling sword or combat knife, it is possible to circle the spawn and constantly attack it while you sidestep its grab and overhead attacks. While it has a tendency to favor its grab and overhead strikes, it is not locked to these 2 attacks and will weave in other attacks, so always be ready to react accordingly. If you're running a weapon with slow attacks, however, it's best to not attack the spawn while it attacks you, as the ping will make it very difficult to safely trade blows with it. If you're running a build where it's not possible to withstand the spawn's onslaught, your only option is to run towards your team and attempt a risky res. If you have a high dodge weapon like the combat knife, it's easier to avoid the spawn's attacks by predicting when the spawn is going to attack and then dodge sliding right before it. Although the spawn's 3-attack combo will cause him to ice skate towards you, making it almost impossible to completely dodge. The distance you gain from the spawn while using these high dodge weapons lets you replenish your stamina to full before almost every attack, making it very easy to stay alive. If you're using any other melee weapon though, you'll have to be a bit smarter with your dodges, as attempting to dodge slide before every attack will drain your stamina quickly and allow the spawn to eventually stunlock you. When running a lower dodge distance melee weapon, you should dodge before any of its multi-attack combos. You won't be able to avoid all of the spawn's attacks, but the ones that do hit will send you far enough backwards so that you won't be overwhelmed by the spawn's subsequent attacks. Additionally, if you need the extra distance, you can jump into the spawn's first attack of his double overhead slam combo, which, when timed correctly, will send you flying backwards a decent amount. You have to jump into his attack for this to work, and you cannot do this on the second attack, only the first. Once you finally reach your team, go for the res while keeping an eye out for its tentacle grab to dodge, and make sure to turn to face the spawn before you res so its attacks will be within your effective block angle. Turn your back to the spawn and it'll break your guard twice as fast. If you have some kind of hard stagger at your disposal, like Vet's Shout or Ogryn's Charge, this is the perfect time to use it, as the spawn will be briefly stunned after any stagger and will give you some extra time to get that res off. Hopefully with these tips and tricks, the 3 monstrosities of Darktide will be less of a headache and more of a cakewalk. If you have any more tips and tricks, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and thanks to this month's Patreons for their continued support. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Darktide content like this in the future. See y'all next time.